it's only been 40 years, right? One generation that we've been here in the States. And for a community like ours, who came here as refugees, who had to survive under war and trauma, and you know, for us, it's like, you know, we have families everywhere, right? So it's like us in Rhode Island have families in Massachusetts, has family in Long Beach, in Seattle. And so when one person gets affected or get taken away, or family gets broken up in Rhode Island, it's felt throughout the country. I consider myself a Khmer American, yes. My family's from Battambang, it's northwest in Cambodia. I was born in Khao Dang, the refugee camp in Thailand, the largest of the camps, and came to the States when I was about 3 years old. I am a citizen now, for a few months now. There's been quite a few folks who've been deported to Cambodia since the repatriation agreement was signed in early 2000s. But I want to be clear that the new administration has this deportation machine because the old administration really ramped it up and built it up, right? The Obama administration deported more people than any other presidency, any other administration in our country. And so while black folks here were fighting for, for basic just civil rights, there were other folks that was also denouncing the wars, the U.S. intervention in Southeast Asia. The Vietnam War, what we call the American War, was never an official war. It was a war that the general American public did not agree with. But it happened anyways. We also didn't fit the model minority myth. The Asian American model minority myth was created as a response to the civil rights movement to say, hey, these Asians, they're so smart, they're so humble, they're so wonderful, they're doing so good in school. Why can't the rest of y'all black and brown folks do that? Yeah, the Killing Fields genocide, that was done by the Khmer Rouge. Almost all of our intellectual class were killed. All the doctors, all the writers, all the politicians, everybody were killed. And what you were left with was the agrarian class, folks like my family who were farmers, who were laborers, with sort of very little skills, right? Skills that would be easily transferable. So we came here. We didn't fit what people thought Asian American meant. We didn't have degrees, we didn't have skills and that were easily transferable to a capitalist society like the US. And grew up with other black and brown poor people. And so I think while, the mass incarceration, the war on drugs was specifically targeting black folks, we were neighbors. We were living right next to, we were going to schools, we had a family with black and brown folks, and we got caught up in that. When we came, it just sort of became like that. We just came into like this cauldron of of issues and situations and systems that now the end result of which is deportations. For me, I had to think about how to reframe that and how to talk about that in a way that doesn't demonize Cambodia, but more about demonizing the policies that are sending out people back. Because Cambodia is beautiful, and the people are beautiful, still recovering. It's only been 40 years since genocide and total collapse of the government. But if there's one thing I know, it's that we're very resilient, and there's a kindness and a welcomeness the Cambodian people have that I've never felt anywhere. My experiences there was definitely through a certain lens.
Right.
As I have security as a U.S. citizen. I was able to save up money to be able to spend there, right? So I don't actually have to try to figure out how I'm going to eat that day.
Yeah.
And I have those kinds of privileges there. So I know that for me, I was walking around, and I knew I was walking around in sort of a little bit of a bubble and experiencing things from from those lenses. Yeah. And it humbled me. It made me. It really humbled me. It made me understand that I have so much, and that I could be doing so much more. Lawyers, organizations, politicians want to rush in and help the undocumented father who has kids who are going to be who are potential scientists and doctors and lawyers. They want that sort of savior story. They don't want to save someone who was a gang member, who has a criminal conviction, you know, who might not want to be a doctor or a scientist, but just want to live and be a father and be a community member. Is that we get doors closed on us once they hear that we are supporting immigrants who have criminal convictions. Because it's harder to sell, it's harder to litigate, it's harder to do all that stuff. You spend years in prisons and detention centers together. You become family, and then you get deported together. And so I've seen so many beautiful ways in which the deportees have come together. You know, some have opened businesses together. So like Boston Pizza Company, and that's close to my heart because I grew up in Boston. So a bunch of the folks from Massachusetts who've been deported opened up a pizza shop right in Phnom Penh, and it was great to walk in and see all this like Boston paraphernalia, all the sports stuff, and you know, and I felt at home because it was at Cambodian and Boston, and so. You know, it was opened up by a bunch of guys, and all the employees, all deportees, and it became also sort of a hanging spot. It's a spot that folks go to. So when I was there, I said, hey, you know, can I just do an open call out? You know, can we, like, on this one night, just let everybody know, just to come through and hang out and eat pizza and talk together and get to know each other. And it was beautiful because people came out and we hung out. They, you know, there has a lot of good questions.